Hi, Kevin Henry, the Group Editorial Director for UBM Medica's Dental Division, and I'm on a Google Hangout this afternoon with my good friend and the Insurance Editor for Dental Products Report, Teresa Duncan. How are you today, Teresa?
I'm great. How are you doing?
You know, it's a great day. It's a great day. We've kind of reached that midway point of the year, and one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you today is that this is a good time for dental practices to kind of be looking at how they're doing business, planning the rest of the year and even into 2016. Is that right?
It is right. Usually around the end of the year, that's when people think about paying attention to their fees. However, you're so busy at the end of the year. You're closing out the months, or you're closing out the year, and you're dealing with all of the people that are rushing in to get in at the end of the year to use their benefits. I actually like adjusting your fees towards the middle of the year because you can kind of do it without any fanfare, and you can do it without, you know, the pressing, the other stuff that's going on in the office. So it's a good time to pay attention to it.
I know you've worked with a lot of practices, worked with a lot of dentists, and what's the biggest mistake that you see as far as fees in the dental practice?
Well, aside from not raising your fees at all, I just got an email from somebody this morning that said they hadn't raised their fees since 2013. And I thought, wow, that's, you know, that sounds so long ago, but really it's only about 2 years ago. What we're doing now is we're going to take a look at those fees and see how balanced those are. So what the other problem that I see besides not raising your fees at all is that they are mostly unbalanced. And so you're probably thinking, what do you mean balanced? Like, what does that mean? So when you have balanced fees, that means that along the percentile range, this 50, 60, 70, 80th percentile, you're consistent so that your diagnostic and preventive fees aren't down at the lower end of 50th percentile, but your crown fee is way up at the 80th or 90th percentile. So I'd like to have it kind of even so it's consistent. Lots of reasons for that.
And you're finding that really fees are kind of all over the board. There's not really a lot of consistency out there, right?
There really isn't. And unless you actually pay attention to the UCRs that are coming back on your explanation of benefits, your EOBs, a lot of times doctors are in the dark about that. So a really good insurance coordinator is taking a look at the EOBs and seeing, are the fees completely out of line with what they're seeing come back on the explanation of benefits. So what I really would love is if, you know, you were up at the 80th, between the 80th and 90th percentile. That's where I like to nudge my clients to be. But however, I run into clients all the time that are down at the 40th or 50th percentile. And I can't, you know, obviously to jump from 40th to 80th is huge. You have patients going, what on earth, what's going on? And not even that, but your staff is thinking, I can't do this. You know, this is too big of a hike. So that's why the mid-year mark is a good time to kind of step it along. So baby steps.
So why are people down at that 40th percentile? Is it just they're hesitant to raise fees, thinking the patients are going to revolt against them, or what's the big thing?
Well, we're always afraid the patients are going to revolt, aren't we? So that seems to be the big thing. Yeah, pitchforks and everything, right? So so number one, of course, we're always afraid to tell the patient that their treatment is going to cost, but that is it's business, right? So there's a couple different reasons. A lot of times a newer dentist will purchase a practice and the practice hasn't raised its fees in a long time. And so again, they're held hostage by, oh my gosh, if I raise the fees, then all the patients aren't going to keep coming to me. There could be the fact that they never had good fees to begin with. I run into a lot of practices where they haven't raised their fees since they started, period. And then what's even worse is the office that only raises their fees to match what the insurance companies are going to pay for. And that's absolutely the worst way to adjust your fees. And so you need a reliable source for fee balancing.
Is there one fee out there that you see is kind of the worst of the worst that the dentists ignore, or it just never gets updated or increased?
You know, a lot of dentists seem to focus on the 4341 and the 2750, which is your scaling and root planing and your crown, the more popular crown. So a lot of times they focus on that, but I'm saying take a look at your diagnostic procedures, your preventive procedures. So your exam fees, a lot of times I come in and your exam fees, your periodic exam of 120 is hovering down at $25, $30. And, you know, I'm not trying to set fees, so nobody get all freaked out, but $25, $30 is low across the country. You know? Yeah. There's a pitchfork, right? No, so but really, if you were to look, I would guarantee you that a lot of times it's the preventive and diagnostic that are lower. And here's the kicker: what procedures do we do the most of? preventive and diagnostic. And so why wouldn't we have those to be a more competitive level than, say, the denture fee that maybe you do maybe 20 of in 1 year?
Teresa, is always great stuff. Is there anything else that you want to leave that maybe we haven't touched on that you want to leave with our viewers?
Well, don't be afraid to raise fees. If anything, take a look at your expenses and your lab reports, your invoices. You know, supply companies raise fees. Your labs are raising fees. You know, the price of gold isn't going anywhere but up. And so, you know, if you haven't raised your fees, you're just not being competitive. One more last point I'll close on is that the majority of practices we work with are very heavy in PPOs. And if you're not paying attention to your fees, you're really shooting yourself in the foot. So you have to keep up with the expenses, because as a PPO practice, when your expenses start to creep up because you're capped with your PPO fees, there's no wiggle room. So your fee-for-service fees are the only place where you're going to see any kind of help, any kind of relief on the fee side.
Teresa, as always, man, I enjoy talking with you. It's always fun and always full of knowledge. Teresa wrote a great article for us that you'll find the link to in the paragraphs above this video on things you need to know about dental fees. We also have a link in here about the fee survey where you can see some of the best and most used fees and exactly what has been done across the country, so you can kind of compare where you are to some of your colleagues that are out there. So, Teresa, again, really appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you so much.